Vice President Kamala Harris has been thrust closer to the center of the 2024 campaign, going up to bat for President Biden. A report in the New York Times profiles how the VP has struggled to gain her footing in the White House, but contends the new, more forceful role could inject renewed excitement about her, especially among doubters.
Harris has been often dinged for rambling word salad speeches, but her cheerleaders say she isn't the issue. Racism is. Here is former Biden-Harris campaign staffer Ashley Allison on CNN.
She is a history maker. She is a woman. She is a black woman. And it's the easy thing to do to say she's the attack dog. Go after her. She was not put in charge of the border. She was put in charge of the root causes and going down to Central and South America to discuss what is happening. And numbers have shown the border, everyone admits our immigration policies are in crisis. It's not because of Kamala Harris. It's because we have not been able to find bipartisan reform. We all know the election, our voting systems are broke. We have a president who won't even, or a former president who won't even acknowledge that he lost the election. That's not because of Kamala Harris. But my final point will be, she is taking it outside of Washington, D.C. She is done with us, the pundits, and she's going to the people who will actually elect her. She's talking about the issues that women care about. Abortion. She's talking about, I'm not going to debate Ron DeSantis on slavery. There is no debate there. And I appreciate it. And I think you will see her numbers start to increase and people will be accepting her of the job.
On Friday, Harris delivered remarks sounding like her usual self.
As today's jobs numbers make clear, Bidenomics is working. Last month, we created 187,000 new jobs. That means today, yeah, go ahead and clap. I don't want to step on the applause. That means today 187,000 more Americans are able to go to work, to provide for their family and invest in their future.
That wasn't the worst of her.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Straightforward.
I mean, her problems, honestly, as much as the rambling speeches are such a focal point for online punditry, her biggest problem is that she has never been that popular. I hate to say it. This isn't a personal attack. She has never been that popular. She wasn't popular when she was running for president, where she had a lot of grassroots, organic.
Well, how can she be?
She's
a black woman, and
that's
what I'm
getting
to. You can't ever be popular.
She got a lot of grassroots organic pushback from black people in California who didn't like her because she has had draconian policies as a prosecutor and has framed herself as a tough on crime candidate and then wanted to pivot and act as though she was a progressive prosecutor, whatever that's supposed to mean for her. So she has seemed like a careerist who has been inauthentic for a long time and who has policies that are out of step with the progressive movement at the same time that she is framing herself as a progressive, and particularly gotten pushback from Black Americans. And so this pitch to make her favorability numbers go up, to have her go one-on-one with Ron DeSantis, to have her, as this New York Times article says, act more offensively than defensively, the way that she seems to normally get through speeches, just trying not to make a mistake as opposed to saying something that advances a message or advances herself in the eyes of the public. You know, I'm not sure it's going to work out. But my question for you, Robby, is do you think this has something to do with increasing concerns that Joe Biden won't make it to the finish line and that there's going to be more challengers that enter into the Democratic primary?
I think we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but whatever behind-the-scenes blessing Gavin Newsom has received to go off and do battle with Ron DeSantis is, I think, a very interesting sign for how Democratic leaders are thinking. I do not think Biden is going to be shown the door at all. No one is going to make him go, but he is very old, and if there's something that takes him out of the game, they want a plan B. I'm actually not even sure Kamala Harris is the plan B, but...
No, I don't think that she is the plan B, but I do think that you cannot ignore what's going on with Gavin Newsom. You can't ignore the chatter that you're hearing here in Washington. And to the extent that it becomes an open field because Joe Biden is no longer in it, I don't think that Kamala Harris is the Democratic Party's choice, but she will have to run. She will have to throw her hat in the ring. Yes. And to the extent that she is now trying to reframe herself in anticipation of that effort. The second question I have is this the best way to go about it? So she did go down to Florida following the Florida curriculum change. That specifically the passage that people were most upset about was this passage that asked children to consider the advantages of slavery. And many people pointed out that it would seem
that's
absurd.
not a direct
Wait a minute.
quote.
People pointed out that it would be absurd for people to ask kids or anybody to consider what people gained from being genocided in the Holocaust. Did prisoners, did people in concentration camps learn grit and life skills while they were being lined up for extermination? You know, technically, who knows if on some fringe case it might be true, but no one would ever ask that question because it's so obviously deeply offensive to the underlying experience. And so people were debating that issue, and Kamala Harris went down to make her case. What do you make of that as a way for her to...
Again, on the underlying issue, I think with a slight tweak, I don't know what the intention was, but if we just say, not because of slavery, but despite slavery, enslaved people managed to improve their lives and better themselves and
learn
persist
skills
and have
was
culture
the issue.
And learn skills.
So, but
not
notably,
because of it, not thank slavery,
well,
but
notably,
slavery did not stop people.
So would you recommend a change to the Holocaust curriculum as well, to say that in spite of the Holocaust, Jewish people learned really meaningful skills that helped their life afterward?
What do you mean? Despite being murdered and imprisoned, Jewish people still celebrated their culture while...
Well, that's not what it says. It said specifically about learning skills. But do you think that is appropriate curriculum to add? And do you think that there's something to be said about the fact that everyone seems to recoil at the idea of saying that about Jewish people in the Holocaust, understandably and rightly so, but there seemed to be no problem with changing. There is obviously the Holocaust in the kids' curriculum. There is in no other moment of brutal genocide and subjugation are the victims of that described as having learned something in the scope of it. So the question is, why was that language included in the slavery section?
Learned despite of it, that you still had, it's affirming that you still had...
Whatever words you want to use, do you think they should be applied in the Holocaust section, where Jewish people
I think I just said yes.
So you think that it's appropriate and good to say Jewish people affirmed all kinds of positive life skills in the context of the Holocaust?
I think it is not only fine, but admirable to point out that despite these horrific, unfathomable conditions, people still have autonomy and freedom and seek to improve their lives and seek to escape and seek to get out of this condition.
Well, people quite literally didn't have freedom. That was the whole point of it.
Freedom was denied from them, and they did not stop aspiring toward freedom. That is a positive statement of the human spirit in these conditions.
Well, what do you make of Kamala Harris going down to make that particular case with Ron DeSantis? And what do you make of Ron DeSantis, the politics of him having committed to this when so many black Republicans have come out also so strongly critical of this language and this policy?
Yeah, I think obviously he doesn't want a fight with fellow Republicans, many of them leading. Byron Donalds, one of them, who I have said before is, I think, a very effective spokesperson for the conservative movement right now. I don't think, in fact, that Ron DeSantis specifically chose the wording of that one passage in 150 passages that pertain to slavery, and I would recommend I think he defended it along the exact lines I just said, and that change should be made to the literal passage so that no one mistakenly thinks that anyone is undermining the badness of slavery or trying to say, put a positive spin on it. It should be the positive spin should be put on people who went through it, that they were that even having this awful thing imposed on them, there were still people of worth and greatness aspiring to more.
Some people will question whether there needs to be a positive spin put on slavery, the Holocaust, or
not a positive spin on these people. On the positive, it's not spin. It's just reality that the people who endured these things were living, breathing people who had characteristics and details and lives we should understand better.
All right. Well, we'll be following what happens with the 2024 race and whether or not Kamala Harris manages to morph herself into a contender. More Rising right after this.